Fiverr and Upwork are currently the biggest freelance platforms available right now. So if you're a new freelancer or you're someone that's just looking to do freelancing on the side and you're really trying to understand which platform is the best fit for you, in this video, that's exactly what we're going to break. Hi, I'm Adeni. I'm a freelance social media manager. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. And in this video, I'm going to break down my experience using both Fiverr and Upwork as freelance platforms. So the first thing I want to talk about is, should you even use freelance platforms to begin with? Because there's a lot of information out there that says, oh, they're just a race to the bottom, or they'll just make you undervalue yourself as a freelancer. And while there is some truth to this, there are also a lot of advantages that freelance platforms give to you. So I want to go over some of them first. The first is obviously the fact that you have access to warm leads, basically people that are already interested in whatever service you're offering. The problem with trying to find leads on your own is that most times you're going to be dealing with cold people. For instance, if you're a graphic designer or a web designer and you're trying to go on social media, for instance, first you need to let someone understand why they need your service and then why you are the right one to work with. Freelance platforms removes this because it attracts people that are already looking for what you offer. So if you're a web designer, for instance, the platform would have already attracted people that are interested in that service of web design. And the only thing you will need to convince them of is why they should choose you over all the other options out there. The second reason why freelance platforms are actually a good idea is because they are a really easy, low effort way to start. And this also goes into one of their biggest disadvantages, which is obviously the high competition. Anyone can join any of these platforms tomorrow, get a profile, and start immediately. You don't need to spend money on ad spend. You don't need to pump out a lot of social media content or anything like that. You just need to learn the rules of whatever platform you want to use and you can start getting results almost immediately. And the third advantage of freelance platforms is that the success on the platform can really build on itself. What that basically means is that as you work more and more on these platforms, you get reviews, you get testimonials, you get niche social proof on these platforms. So people trust you more and it becomes easier over time to really get more clients and make more money. So basically, your effort continues to give you good results over time. So now, when it comes to the choice of platforms to use, there are three main platforms. There's obviously Fiverr, there's Upwork, and then there's freelancer.com. I've not had a lot of experience with freelancer.com myself, although I know people who have used it and I've seen good results there, but I have not used it personally, so I can't speak on that. So in this video, I'm just going to be talking about Fiverr and Upwork, which one is the best for you if you're just getting started, which one to experiment with, and breaking down the benefits of each platform. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about Fiverr. Fiverr was where I got my start when I started as a freelancer. That was back in 2021. And it has a lot of advantages, but it also has obviously its disadvantages as well. The first advantage to Fiverr is I feel like it's an easier platform to get started with. And the reason for that is you don't technically need to be an expert or even know technically a lot to get started on Fiverr. Because Fiverr operates on a gig basis, you can create gigs that will render specific services even if you are not skilled. For instance, there are gigs on Fiverr about dancing, singing, things like that that are not, they are skills, but things that you might just be able to do in your day-to-day already. So as someone that maybe you don't have a specialized skill like web design, graphic design, social media management, or whatever, you can definitely still make some money on Fiverr. There are even crazy things for you, people that will just maybe call you, be a friend or something like that. So it's much easier to get started. The problem with that though is that one, it also invites obviously more competition because there are a lot of people. So if you do want to set yourself apart from the majority, you need an actual skill that people are willing to pay a lot of money for, regardless of if you're on Fiverr or on Upwork. Now let's get into one of the disadvantages with Fiverr, which is simply the fact that clients on Fiverr are typically going to want to pay less because of just the brand the business has built over time. It started as a platform where you would do services for $5. And even though it has moved away from that, you can charge up to thousands of dollars right now on Fiverr. It still has that kind of stigma attached to it. So it's much harder to charge higher on Fiverr compared to Upwork. And the clients as well, some of them come in with the wrong expectations because it's still in the name Fiverr. So they really want to pay as little as possible and get the best job done as possible. I feel like that's one of the main problems Fiverr has. And the second one is simply, I think I touched upon this in my last video, which is just the fact that right now they no longer have their buyer's request section. Basically, what that was a place where buyers would go, they would submit the jobs they needed done, and then you could go in and start applying to those jobs. And then the buyer would be able to read your request, and then you guys would talk, and then you could get clients doing that. They took that out a while ago. And so what that means basically is the only real way you can get new clients is if your gig ranks or if you get matched by the AI. Basically, when the buyers right now post those requests, is the AI that matches the jobs to the freelancers they feel is the right fit. And that was one of the reasons why I personally left Fiverr because, yeah, some of my gigs were doing pretty well, but over time, they actually started doing worse over time. And I didn't have any control over that. I couldn't control whether the AI system matched me with the jobs I deserved or anything like that. So it really wasn't working for me. Another problem with Fiverr as well is their ranking system. So they have levels that as you do more work, as you deliver good work, you go higher in the levels. And that's a good system. But the problem is you can also go down the levels as well. So you could be someone that is doing very well right now. Maybe you made a mistake, you had a bad review or something like that, you could go down in level as well. So that's just the problem with that. Not used it for about 2, 3 years now, maybe even 4 years. And that's about how the leveling system is right now. I think it was immediately as they changed it to the new leveling system. That's actually when I left. So yeah, that's the thing. So Fiverr easier to get started with, definitely, but you would typically deal with cheaper clients, and also it's just harder to get results now compared to, for instance, when I started because the AI is doing a lot of the matching. So if you are someone that you don't know how to make your gigs rank because it's really gig heavy, like you create the gigs, post what you do for the client, put your prices and all that. So if you really can't do that, I would not recommend Fiverr. So now let's move to Upwork. So just like Fiverr, obviously Upwork has its advantages and down. The first advantage about Upwork that I have personally seen is actually the proposal system. Now let me explain. So actually before joining Upwork, I saw this as a disadvantage, but now that I'm on Upwork, I see it as an advantage. Because being someone that was used to Fiverr and that started from Fiverr, I was used to just, okay, let me create this gig, get this gig ranking, and then I can basically just relax and I don't need to stress myself, right? So I had this set it and forget it mentality. And I didn't like Upwork back then because I was like, oh, I have to keep sending proposals on and on. And depending on how you view that, it can be an advantage or a disadvantage. And let me explain. It can be a disadvantage because obviously you need to keep putting in the work, but it's also an advantage because you can control your results better. So when it comes to Upwork right now, I know that okay, if I send a specific amount of proposals, I'll get a specific amount of opens, specific amount of interviews from that, and a specific amount of clients. It's a math equation. So let's say I send 100 proposals, 20 get viewed, maybe I get 5 messages from that, one interview, and I'm able to close that interview. Now that might seem like very low conversion rate. Well, for someone that if you are charging a lot of money for your service, that one client alone, and if they're a retainer as well, that one client alone could be a big revenue source for your business. So that's just the thing. So that's one of the advantages for me. That it's just a math equation. You can directly affect your results. If you're not getting results, you need to either look at how you're sending your proposals, how your profile is structured, or how many proposals you're sending. That's just it. So that's one advantage of Upwork. Another advantage of Upwork is that I feel like there are more premium clients there. Clients on Upwork are more comfortable spending lots of money. Obviously, you come across the occasional cheap clients as well that wants you to deliver an arm and a leg for $5 or $10. But most of the time, when you find the right client and if you vet them the right way as well, which you need to do, you'll be able to charge much more on Upwork compared to Fiverr. That's just how it is because there are much more premium clients that use Upwork compared to Fiverr. And let's delve into the disadvantages on Upwork. First one, obviously, is that when it comes to the jobs on Upwork, a lot of them are either not actually hiring, posted by fellow freelancers like you that are trying to understand how the platform works, or not really urgent. So there are a lot of quote unquote jobs that you can never get. But there are some ways you can obviously make this easier on yourself. There are signs you can look out for, whether the person has hired recently, how many jobs have they posted, their higher rates, how much they spent on the platform. These are all things you can look at to really get a gauge into, okay, is this person a serious client? Before you send your proposal, if you look at the person's profile and you find out they've posted 50 jobs and they've never hired anyone, then just save your connect and obviously don't waste your money on that. Second disadvantage, obviously, is what I just spoke about the connects. Connects can get very expensive, especially now that you might need up to 15 connects to send for a single job. Connects can get very expensive. You can burn through them fast and you need to keep buying them. So that's just the thing. So it's really about how much you are willing to invest into making more money. And that also depends on what you are charging for your service. Because if you are someone that charges a lot for your services, Upwork will work better for you. And then the third disadvantage of Upwork is the types of clients you can get there. So there are two ways you can get projects on Upwork, which is obviously hourly rate or fixed rate. Both of them have their advantages, both have disadvantages. Hourly is easier to bill, but the problem is over time you might get stuck trading your time for money, which we all trade our time for money on some level, but it's much better if you can charge based on a specific price for the specific deliverable. Because with hourly, you can't hire out the work, you can't outsource the work, for instance. And if you are someone that you're really good at your craft, let's say you're a video editor, you're very good, it makes sense that you'd be able to do better work in less time than a newbie. That just makes sense. So hourly rate punishes you for being good. But with the right systems, if you manage it the right way, you can still make a lot of money doing it. And then there's obviously the fixed rate, which I talked about. And you can do that as well. But I have actually seen myself that hourly clients tend to be the best. Like when it comes to dealing with the clients themselves, fixed rates clients, they're always trying to change the scope on you. At least the ones I have dealt with, they're trying to change the scope on you, making you do more work for the same amount of pay. That's the problem. And in the case of a dispute as well, if you have an issue with the client, it's much easier to resolve for hourly. Because for hourly, Upwork, the app will capture your screen. And so all you need is that as evidence that, oh, yeah, I was working on something. And Upwork is not really concerned about how much time it took. They also care that you were working that time. And it shows your activity levels as well. Whereas for fixed cost, you use milestones instead, which is still obviously helpful and provides protection, but it's not just as safe as the hourly. So now when it comes to which one is best for you, I think it really depends on what kind of service you're offering and what stage you're at in your journey. If you're a beginner, and you don't mind trying the old gig ranking system, you can go for Fiverr. And especially if you're not charging a lot, because if you are selling something that is, let's say, $50 or $100 max, Upwork is not going to be a good play for you because by the time you buy Connects, let's say you spend $50 on Connects, right? And after sending maybe hundreds of proposals, you only get one or two clients. By the time you add that together, you will only be making maybe $100 to $200. So the math will not work for you. However, if you sell more high ticket stuff, let's say your offer, maybe you're doing web design, graphic design, or you're a developer, for instance, Upwork is definitely going to be a better place for you. You're going to be able to charge more and make more. And it makes sense as well. If you're making like $1,000 per client, there's nothing wrong with being able to drop $100 a month for Connect. That shouldn't be a problem. That's just a logical business decision. It depends on the service and how much you charge as well. If you're charging higher tickets, just go to Upwork. But if you know what you are selling is something that is not really, how should I call it? Don't want to say valuable, but something you don't charge a lot for, Fiverr is the better place because, as far as I know, for now at least, it's still free. You don't need to spend money on Connect or any of that. So it just works better if you're a complete beginner and you're not charging a lot on your belt and you're charging a lot for your services or you do retainers. Like people pay you month after month, clients keep coming back. Just go to Upwork, set up your profile, add some case studies, some portfolio pieces, and send proposals diligently. Learn to find the right people to send proposals to and the right way to write your proposals. Maybe I'll make videos on those in the future. But yeah, that's just the best way to go if you're charging a lot. Another thing you could do is to actually just test both, depending on how much time you have. Test Fiverr, test Upwork, maybe test freelancer.com as well. I have not used that personally, like I said, but you can test that as well and just see which one you get traction on. Because the good thing is when you're setting up one profile, you can basically use that same way to set up another profile. So what you use as your, let's say, your Fiverr intro, is that what it's called? Would also be your Upwork profile description or something like that. Your profile picture, you can just use the exact same profile picture. Both accounts on both platforms at the same time. And then whichever one you get traction on first, you focus on that. But like I said, it's really mostly is going to depend on what kind of service you are offering and how much you charge for it. If you charge more for it, 500 to 1,000 or upwards, just go to Upwork. It's going to be a better use of your time. You're going to meet more serious clients and then you're going to be able to monetize much faster. And the connects shouldn't be a problem for you as well because if you're charging a lot, it makes sense to be able to pay the platform some of that because they're bringing you leads. Apart from social media and maybe referrals, There's no other way to get leads completely for free. It's either you spend money on ads or you use cold email, all these things you have to pay for them. So why not just pay the platform? Upwork, for instance, spend money on the connects. And there are other things you can do as well. You can boost your profile, you can boost your proposals. Although I would be careful with those because they can really take a lot of your money and I'm not sure they're worth it. I personally don't use them myself. Just spend money on connects, send proposals, and yeah. So if you have any questions, if you have any considerations, anything you are thinking about, drop it in the comments. I'd like to have a chat with you. If you've tried any of these platforms as well, if you've had a better experience with maybe Fiverr or Upwork, drop that down in the comments as well and let's talk about it. And finally, don't forget to like and subscribe this video. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And before I close out the video, I want to drop a motivational quote. And the quote for today is, it is better to fail and know why you have failed than to succeed and not know why. So I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.